Okay, so this is your notes, and I think I gave you the right paper, but this is regression correlation, and so these are like your notes. And if you don't have it, that's okay because you have this video, and then I'm going to walk you through this Desmos activity that you can do it, and it shouldn't be that bad. So regression equations are used for the most when you're finding an equation, and you just use Desmos calculator. So one of the things is the first step is it tells you to go in and add a table. And we're going to go through and walk you through that process. Second thing is it tells you to go through and you're going to add this data. And then that third thing, you're going to go through Y1 and then that's little tilty in order, and that's a little squiggly line. You're going to go to shift and right above the tab, there's that little shift, there's that little tilty, and that's how you make it. And then M X1 plus B. The X1 and the Y1, make sure you're doing that because that's going to tell you, that's going to give you, that tells the computer program Desmos that you're using this data right here between those, and that's how you're getting it. Then you're looking at the equation. Well, this blue part is your equation. This is your slope, that's your y-intercept. And then this R, that's your correlation coefficient R. So this is your equation, and you type it in, and it should go through that line. Okay, the next thing. Here is information. This is, I know, is in your notes. This is correlation. This is positive, high positive. This would be perfect, like if R was 1. So these are examples of correlations. And then these are like notes for you on that. You're going to have to go through and read that. The next thing. So this is where you need, and you're going to have to enter this into your calculator. So we're going to our calculator, and we're going into Desmos. And I already gave you this. So this is your Desmos notes that goes with it. So I just open up that Desmos activity. I go to my next page, and it says in your binder, you should find that example of ice cream versus visits to the nurse. So you're looking at that, and I kind of showed you that information. So the next part, that next screen, maybe that will go to next. You don't know why it's not going to next. It doesn't want to talk to me. Okay, so notice that I went up here and I went to add a table. So I've added my table, right? And now, whoops, I don't want that. So I went up here and I went to add a table. So I hit the plus and then I went to table. And I'm going to put in my data. And my data was 245.10. 245.10 for an X is going to be the price of your ice cream sales. And then there were 66 people going to the nurse. And then X2 and Y2. So now the next point was there's 45 and 0.25. And then there's 17 people that went to the nurse. And so forth. And you're going to go through and add that. So you're going to keep adding. So this is where you pause the video and you get this. The next screen. The next screen is I've already put this data in. And if you go to this little wrench right here, this will kind of help you change. So we're not going to -10. And if I look at my numbers, I'm going to like 245, 276, 312, $371 in ice cream sales. So I'm going to go from like 0, and then I got to go all the way out to like this X value right here. So this X value was 371. So I'm just going to type in 400. And then that's going to be, and then my Y value, I don't have any negatives. I don't have any negative sales to the nurse. So I'm going to change this to be 0. 0 things to the nurse. And then the number of visits, the highest number of visits, is when I look, is 131. So I'm just going to round that up just a little bit more to be a little bit nicer number. And then that's going to be one. I don't know what's going on with my computer. Oh, there we go. So I want this to be 140. And now I can see all of my little dots. So that's how you make, this is how you, and you leave this on projector. Bimodal is totally fine. You can put a grid, you can put in you can take out the minor grid lines, and then that doesn't give you all of them in between, or you can put them back in, that's fine. So just kind of, and this is where you're kind of figuring out Desmos, you can play with it a little bit. So now we're going to go to the next, I've got my data in. So now that next thing says right here, I'm going to go to 2. So now on 2, so notice it's highlighted, I'm going to go to add. And when I add, I'm going to add an expression. So I go to add expression, and I want this to be Y1. And that little tilty, so shift, and then right above tab gives you that little tilty squiggly line, M, and then X1, and then plus B. And now you have an equation through there. And if I look, I'm going to scroll down so you can actually see. This right here is your slope. So my slope is 0.27. My y-intercept is about 12. So so the real life example, because this is where you guys already missed, every time that the sales of ice cream increases by $1, the visits to the nurse go up by 0.27. That would be real life. This would be, because it's 0.86, that would be a strong correlation because it's 0.86. So that's a strong positive, and it's positive because this line is going up. So we go to the next one. Okay, the real life meaning of slope. So I gave you that. So the real life meaning, so as the slope, as the price of the ice cream sales increase, ice cream, I can spell, sales increase, then the visits to the nurse increase, by 0.27. That's for slope. Y-intercept. So, and this is like if you had 0 sales, there is, and you start with about 12 visits to the nurse. So if there was no ice cream being sold, there would still be about 12. So this is A for slope. And then B is your y-intercept. And then I'd go through and submit. So don't forget to hit submit. So the next one, what is that y-intercept of your equation? What's the real life? So that y-intercept I told you was 12. That real life was, so A is A. And then that just means if there is no ice cream being sold, then there are 12 visits to the nurse. So if no, and you're going to go through and submit. So the next one is that, okay, what's the correlation? Well, that was that R. So R was about 0.86, and that would be a strong positive relationship. All right, so strong positive relationship, you'd hit submit. And then you go to the next one. Okay, so there are 400 icing sales predict the number of things. So what happens if there is $400? So whatever our equation was, y equals, and then you had 0.27, the number of ice cream sales, plus 12. So in this case, what would happen? I would have to say, in order to do this, I would have to say, 0.27 times 400 plus 12. And that's how I would get my answer. Oops. And then this would give me my answer. So it's actually, I did that wrong. 0.27 times 400 plus 12. And then that's going to be about 120 francs. And this is explain, same thing, submit. So the next one. Now there are 20 visits. So in 20 visits, so now you've got 20 equals 0.27 x, visit a number of ice cream sales, plus 12. So now in order to do this, now we got to explain and submit. So now what happens is you're going to go through and you're going to go, you're going to go 20 minus 12. And you get some answer. And so 20 minus 12 ends up being 8. And then you're going to divide that by 0.27. And then that ends up being about 29.63. So in this one right here, this should be 29.63. And this is where it's actually a little bit helpful that you would actually go back through and put your put it on paper and then send me a picture. That would be a lot easier. But this is how you are going to go through and do your 11.5 homework. Then you're going to watch this video and you're going to go through and do it.